I remember I was at a beat battle where this guy gave a long ass intro saying, "Hey, so this is how I made the beat. I used all analog outboard gear, and then I hired this session player, and I play 5 instruments. I play guitar, I play sax, I play bass, I play drums." And like after the first 15 seconds of that explanation, I knew the beat was going to be terrible. It's going to be all hot takes, I guess.
Okay, cool.
What's going down? It is the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. My name is DJ Payne One. We got a full house today. Dame is back. How are you feeling, Dame?
Yes, I'm back, feeling much better. I still have a lingering cough. I had COVID last week. My whole house had COVID, so it was like a COVID nest. We were all sick together, just kind of weathering the storm. But we're back. We're all better. But if I cough I'll try to mute myself. But I do have a lingering cough.
You don't have to apologize. Remember me.
Oh yeah, Dead Pain One.
I sounded like a vacuum cleaner that needed servicing. Aaron, how are you feeling? You're staying healthy, right?
I am. I'm great. I'm great. I feel great. Staying healthy. Just got tested because I was around a lot of people. Still don't have COVID. Bless God. So I'm good.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I obviously didn't have COVID for a long time, and it finally got me. It was pretty bad. There was one day that was really bad, but other than that, it was like a strong cold, strong flu or whatnot. Just had like aches and pain and spiking fever for like a day, but then, just had regular cold symptoms the rest of the time.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know what the hell strain I got, what variant I got it. I'm just going to call it the pain strain because it knocked me all the way out, and everyone's saying how mild it was. And I wanted to, it was like a 5-day period where my congestion was so bad and so painful I couldn't sleep. And I'm thinking, if this doesn't improve tomorrow, I had to go to rehab for Mucinex. If this doesn't improve by tomorrow, I'm going to just jump out a window. I can't do this anymore. So it was painful. It felt like a sinus infection and strep throat and the flu all at once. So I don't know. We all survived. I just don't want to get it again. I'll put it that way. So what's scary is I had all the necessary protection, and I still don't know where I got it, but I guess there are new variants that can sidestep the vaccines and the antibody resistance and all that. So, okay, my cat is all in my drink.
Payne has a guest cat that is nameless, but might make an appearance throughout the show.
Yeah, probably you're going to see a tail or an ass or something come up because she's all over the place. So I have a terrifying story, but I don't know if you want to get into that right away. I have a terrifying music news story.
All right, let's do terrifying first. So
I was tagged on Twitter in a story by somebody, I think a well-meaning person who completely misinterpreted the story, but I was tagged. They said Mariah Carey's getting sued for uncleared samples from her biggest hit ever, All I Want for Christmas Is You. I thought, wait a minute. She got sued for sampling. I got to read this because I think maybe, okay, there's a plagiarism suit or something. That's not really the same as sampling. I read into it. She is being sued. She is. However, it's not for sampling, which is why all these pop culture music articles always get misconstrued by the average reader because, ultimately you end up with an army of Rolling Stone and Variety readers who swear they understand the music business when they're actually super confused, especially about intellectual property law and those aspects of the business, which, look, I get it. They are confusing. In addition, I just want to make it clear that what I'm saying is straight from the articles that I've read. I can only go off of that. I don't, unfortunately, have Mariah Carey's direct line. So anyway, here's the truth based on my reading of it about the lawsuit. This is from CNN. Again, CNN isn't perfect either. I'm just saying this is what I got. In a complaint filed in the New Orleans federal court, Andy Stone, who a lot of people may not be familiar with, is seeking at least $20 million in damages from Mariah Carey, her co-writer, and Sony Music Entertainment That was the label that released it, for copyright infringement and misappropriation, which is a kind of terrifying word in and of itself in the context, among other claims, also terrifying. Stone, who performs as Vince Vance with the country pop band Vince Vance and the Valiants, which let me just say is an amazing band. I looked them up. They're really cool. But they accused the defendants of having illegally exploited his popularity and unique style and caused confusion by recording the newer song without his permission. So she's being sued for the song title, basically, because Vince Vance and the Valiants have a song called All I Want for Christmas Is You. The lawsuit isn't alleging that she stole lyrics or melodies at all. It's literally just the title, and he's suing her for $20 million. Now, if Mariah Carey is responsible for all of the damages, she'll be fine. She's rich as hell. That's not the point. The rest of us, if this case goes through, that was the cat. Uh-oh.
What's wrong? Did it messed up your audio?
Yeah.
Damn it, Payne. No more cats during the podcast.
All right, I'm good now. The cat unplugged my USB mic. So anyway, back to this terrifying scenario. Why it's terrifying is because if this actually is a successful lawsuit and Mariah Carey is sued, it's like the whole Nicki Minaj versus Tracy Chapman lawsuit. The results are going to affect us all. So what I read was that not only is Mariah Carey not the first or second person next to the guy that's suing her to have a song titled All I Want for Christmas Is You, neither is he. There are hundreds of these songs by the same title that predate and post-date Mariah Carey's version and Stone's version. So this could set a really ugly future for musicians. If you can get sued over a song title or a vague concept, that's going to create a tidal wave of lawsuits. Think about it. Anything that you have, if I put a song out called Taste and it's about eating food, I could get sued by Tiger just because of the title.
Well, you won't get sued unless it's very successful. The only reason they're going after Mariah Carey is because the song generates millions and millions of dollars every year. And I'm assuming, you go after them, you try to sue them in hopes that they'll settle, right? Like you're shooting for 20 million, but maybe they'll settle for $1 million or 500,000 and you still won because, you got something for nothing. So it's
even if they don't get that, now everybody who read this article, not me though, is going to go listen to his song.
Well, and then I wonder, is that worth it? Because that's a lot of money to be spending on legal counsel just to get a small boost in streams at this point.
They might have taken him on pro bono for a case this big. A lot of times when you're going after big artists, they're just like, we'll just take a portion of the winnings.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like you can find a slimy lawyer to do anything if they sense that there could be a bag at the end of the rainbow. And, I don't know what the number is. I read it during Christmas time of how much money that song makes every year. It was some ridiculous amount. I want to say like 10 million a year or something like that, maybe more. I don't know. But that's the reason they're going after her. Like, smaller artists where the song's not generating millions of dollars a year, they would be safe. Like nobody's going after those artists, but it is a whack precedent to set, in my opinion.
Well, according to Celebrity Net Worth, I don't know how accurate that is. It says that she makes about $1 million a year in royalties, but then also on CNN, it says in total off of royalties, she has made $60 million.
That song has to generate more than $1 million a year.
Well, it generates more. That may just be her take. That may just be her take because she probably didn't write on it. Her label probably owns it. Do you know what I'm saying? So her take may be $1 million a year.
Right. But still, that song is everywhere. Every Christmas, that song is everywhere. It's placed in so many different things, movies, television. That song is probably the most popular song of the year. Like I can't think of another song that's more popular every single year.
Yep.
So, but yeah, that's whack. I mean, there are some, especially these days, with how many songs being uploaded every single day. What is it? What are we up to? 60,000?
60,000. That's
Yeah.
just on Spotify, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So that's my point. The Tiger example I gave was terrible. What I should have said is this: say I record a song called "Bang," which is I can name a million other artists that have a song with that same title. And then a year from today, Drake comes out with a song called Bang. My song got 50,000 streams. Drake's song got 50 million. Now I want a piece of Drake's money, and I sue him for misappropriation. So now he's in trouble. The producers involved are in trouble. The label's in trouble. The co-writers are in trouble. And it's just going to be a race to see who, can game the system faster. Which, people might say, well, it's you can only go after these super rich, famous musicians. But it's like, what if you're involved in one of those projects? Then you're in trouble. You may not be a super rich. You know how many super rich musicians I've worked with? If that happened to us, I'd be in trouble too somehow, I think. And then my other question is, and I don't know if either of you know this, as far as the lawsuit goes, you were talking about it earlier, Dame. If they settle, does that still set a legal precedent?
I don't know, but I'm not. I mean, I can't see this going. I'd be highly surprised if this set a precedent where you see just a whole slew of cases now of people going after other artists with the same song title. I'd be surprised if this set off a wave. Like
I feel like it happens though. This is just getting a bigger buzz because I know an artist who was going after Earth Gang in them when they dropped the new project. He had a song called Stick, and they had a song called Stick, and he was like, it's the same title, but I feel like sonically it sounds similar. I personally don't think it does. It has like a Southern flair, but both artists are from the South. You know what I'm saying? But that was like a whole thing. Granted, he was way smaller and it's Earth Gang and people don't really care about Black music like that. So they're not going to cover it. But, Hip Hop DX, a handful of hip hop publications covered it. And it got big enough to where to Earth Gang and those lawyers reached out, like Dreamville's lawyers reached out to the kid and was like, yo, let's have a conversation. We don't need you blowing this up right now. We didn't take this song. This song is recorded. You know what I'm saying? And he was cool. I think he might have been doing it for clout anyways, but I'm saying this has been happening. I just think it's when it happens with certain artists who have enough noise to make. So I think it's a very regular thing in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if this became a thing, you would start to see people just to release songs just to secure the name, right? Just like people do with domains, right? You'll just find some person that's probably not even an artist and just start submitting songs to Spotify just to like grab so many, like thousands and thousands of names in the hopes that somebody creates a song with the same name that's successful in the future. And then like, that's their whole game plan. That's whack, but I don't see it getting there. If it does, I'd be highly surprised.
Well, I think we were all surprised by the Blurred Lines lawsuit as well. So stranger things have happened. I think it depends on probably the judge and who's involved, because it's the music business and not everybody really gets it or the impact. I mean, I can see somebody looking at this article and saying, oh yeah, Mariah Carey needs to pay up, just based on their emotional reaction to some part of the article, not really quite understanding the implications of it. I don't know. I hope that's not the case. It's an interesting story anyway. But yeah, if this does happen, it is going to set some kind of precedent. I think, like you said, even the fact that there's media response, it might not set a legal precedent, but it might set a trend in terms of, an upsurge of artists blaming or accusing other artists of stealing their ideas, which is still all bad because no one wants that kind of thing to happen to them, like the Earth Gang situation. I had someone accuse us of stealing their sample pack name once, and I was like, and it was it was in a disrespectful way. It was like, oh, y'all just gonna take this name, and it was all public, because that's how social media works. And I reached back out and said, hey, our sample pack, here's the timestamp on the website when it was released. We released it with that name a year before yours. And they apologized. So I appreciate them apologizing, but the point is no one has time to deal with all this stuff. And then the way the internet works, negative things like this blow up, especially when there's someone that they perceive as more famous involved. So I don't like what it's doing just for the dynamics of the music creator community.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't see it being terrifying. But maybe it turns into something. I don't know. So my topic this week is, my role at BeatStars has changed already. My focus is now building out their record label. So I'm now responsible for a strategy, recruiting artists, working with artists, basically building out a full-fledged record label for BeatStars. So it's put me back in that position again. Obviously, I ran Funk Volume for 7 or 8 years. And it's just interesting because I make the announcement on Twitter. I'm listening to a bunch of music, and obviously there's a shitload of artists that are submitting music. They want you to listen to their music. And I just want to let artists know that, because it's a lot of artists that are stuck that just want help, right? It's a lot of artists that are stuck. They just want help. And if you are stuck, the last thing you want to do is look for a place to sign to, right? They're not going to be that interested in an artist that's stuck. So that's number one. They're not going to be that interested in art. If you're stuck, why would they be interested in helping you if you can't really help yourself? Right. So that's number one. Number two is, what kind of leverage are you going to have in a negotiation if you're stuck? Right. Why would you even want to start a negotiation with a label about potentially joining their label and you have no leverage? You have no leverage. What kind of deal would you expect to sign if you're stuck? So my advice to people that are stuck, do not look for anywhere to sign. Use resources like the MEC and other platforms to unstick yourself, whatever the word is, and get some momentum. And then you may realize that you may never, ever need to sign. But if it does come an opportunity where you think a good partner makes sense, you'll be in a much better situation to have a better deal. Right. So I get it. I know that most artists are stuck. Most artists don't know what to do next to get the next fan or the next 4 fans, 10 fans, 1,000 fans, million fans. They don't know what to do. But looking for somewhere to sign to is definitely not the answer right now. It's definitely not the answer. So I just want to put that out there. I am listening to a lot of music. So this is the time, if you feel like you do have something to share that that you think could use some fuel and you want some momentum and you're looking for a partner, I am looking for artists. But I'll also say this, I can count on one hand the amount of times somebody told me that their music was dope, and it actually was, in my opinion, right? Most of the time, so I was going to ask your opinion too, Eric, because the dope music that I hear comes from the fans of that artist or a trusted friend in the industry is like, hey, Dave, you got to check this out. I literally, there was back in 2013, 14, there was a cat named Neil the Gift that handed me a CD at South by Southwest. And he was really dope. He was an artist out of the Bay. I don't know whatever happened to him, but he was doing his thing for a second. But it actually happened recently too. There's this cat named Maurice Moore who he tagged me on Twitter, but he also said that he already had like over 70 million streams independently. So obviously I'm going to look like, okay, let me see what this cat is doing if he's got 70 million streams. And his music is actually really good. So I'm sure there's been a few other times, but it hasn't happened more than 5. Aaron, and Pay, you guys, I'm sure have experienced the same thing.
Yes, definitely. Oh, yeah. Everybody's like, my music is tight. My music is tight. My music is tight. I tell people all the time, I don't take music submissions. I don't want to listen to your music because it's not tight. And then people get offended. And I'm like, if it's tight, I would hear about it. You know what I'm saying? If you're in my network close enough to DM me or pull up on me at a show, you're in my network. If it's tight, I'm going to hear it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not tight. It's all right. So, like, I've never, like, it's happened maybe twice. You said count on one hand. Like, I can think of one right now. I'm actually going to send him to you. He told me his music was tight, but he just left it at that. We were homies. And I was like, okay, everybody in Atlanta rap. And then his manager hired me to help them with the marketing plan. He's like, hey, I just want to get a consultation. We'll pay for a month of services. So they send the music. And I was like, yo, this shit is tight. You know what I'm saying? But he had only said it once. He wasn't bugging me. He was just a homie that I knew who did film stuff, so I didn't believe it. I'm like, he's doing this on the side, but he's one. There may have been one other person in the entire 11 and a half years of my career, but no, it's never that. And It's not an invitation to DM us because I've probably listened to at least 50,000 tracks over the course of my 10 years. Your music is not tight, period.
And I know music is subjective, but and I definitely don't claim to be a Russell Simmons or a Puff Daddy or anything like that. Sure. But like a lot of you cats sound the same. Like the shit sounds the same. It is so boring. Like it's so boring, and I think you're just excited that you made a song. Like that's what I think it is. I think you're just excited that you made a song. And obviously most of the music is hip hop, but as I'm getting more R&B submissions, I think that a lot of R&B artists, again, are just excited that they made a song and it sounds in their mind similar to what like we hear on the radio. Like that's not the bar. Number one, it doesn't sound as good as what I hear on the radio. And number two, that's not what you should be striving to be, in my opinion. Like you should be trying to develop your unique sound, your unique perspective. But a lot of music sounds the same. And I know people will push back and they don't like hearing that feedback. They'll reject that feedback. But a lot of
or if it's different, it's just bad. They're like, no, mine is different. It's like, yeah, this shit is terrible.
Right.
I would honestly rather that, to be honest, if because, I judge competitions and stuff. If somebody's music is different but not good compared to someone's music that's good but sounds exactly like another rapper, I think, okay, there's potential here for the person that's different but bad. All they have to do is get a little better, which happens all the time. But
I agree with that.
Yeah, to convince an artist that's good but sounds like everyone else, somehow you got to convince them to get out of their own way and completely re-envision their whole creative process, basically. And that's hard for a lot of artists to do because they're so used to, someone's stealing my shine. They're so used to, copying what's out there and basing their own sound on what's out there. And they've been doing it for so long. And I think a lot of people will hype them up too. They'll be like, oh, wow, this sounds just like A Boogie. This sounds just like Polo G. This is amazing. And that's not really a compliment. It's kind of one of the, like, maybe if you were the first week in or the first month in or the first quarter in and people are comparing you to those artists, yeah, that's good. And maybe if you can say something weird like, hey, I'm like Young Thug meets Cool Mo D, or something, or Big Daddy. I'm like Lil TJ meets Big Daddy Kane. I'm gonna be like, what? Okay, now I'm a little curious. But if you're like, oh yeah, man, I got this record, it sounds just like the last record that Lil Baby dropped. Like I'd rather listen to Lil Baby. Why would I listen to you? And people don't quite get that.
I agree with that. That's what I was doing this weekend. I was in Boston at a music conference, and we had a 3-hour music feedback session day one. So like we got it in where we were just listening to verse, chorus, verse, chorus. There were a lot of dudes who had like the turn up track that was mixed pretty well. And I was like, and then there were a lot of people who had like voice notes, but they were a little bit left of center. And I was like, hey, I see this and this and this. I think you should lean this way. And I could tell every time dudes were confused. Every time. But I'm like, why would I want to hear Drake adjacent? You're not doing it better than Drake. You know what I'm saying? Why would I even want to hear like some small artist adjacent, you know, and I live in Atlanta. We work in the music industry. We're hearing stuff all the time. You think your shit is amazing, but it's like, especially when you don't have a story, it could be mixed well. It could sound cool, but if you're just saying the same shit that everybody, or like it's just a mediocre turn up track. It's like, this isn't leading me towards anything. And then they kept coming up to me after, you know, it was just one song. I think you got to hear the rest. I'm like, no, I'm just like a fan. You have 30 seconds to catch me and I listen to a minute and a half. That's all you get. Like people are not giving their time right now. And you think I'm going to give my time when I have nothing to prove? Like, no. So I think that's another word to artists. Don't expect people to dig through your catalog and experience the waves and how eclectic and the story you're trying to tell. Hit it out the gate. Cut off that long ass intro. Get your friend to spend the time and the money on the mix.
No, seriously, the long ass intros. And this happens to producers too. I remember I was at a beat battle where this guy gave a long ass intro saying, hey, so this is how I made the beat. I used all analog outboard gear. And then I hired this session player and I play 5 instruments. I play guitar, I play sax, I play bass, I play drums. And like after the first 15 seconds of that explanation, I knew the beat was going to be terrible. And it was, because a lot of people replace musicality with this story that they tell themselves about how advanced their product is, and it's not.
I actually meant the length of the actual intro of the song, but I agree. I tell people, give me an elevator pitch. I don't want to hear shit about how you went to Berkeley and how your dad was a pastor and you grew up in, I'm with you. Both long ass intros, cut them all out. Let the music speak for itself.
Well, but let me say this then about producers, because the whole originality thing is happening to everybody, of course. And producers, a lot of the way that we get into beat making is, you know, by emulating our favorite producers. I did it with DJ Muggs, who influenced Alchemist. You know, that was my first beat. I was trying to emulate him. And then, you know, years later, I tried different stuff. And I don't know, people say I have a unique style, or they can tell a DJ paint one beat. I leave that up to them. But sometimes it's really simple stuff. Do you remember when it was so groundbreaking that Timberland, for example, was sampling Middle Eastern and Indian music? Because no one else was doing it. And that's not, and granted, Timberland has been innovative, period, through like the mixing, the beats, the sound selection. You know, Genuine Pony is still one of the most amazing beats, in my opinion. Just the sounds he was using, you know, putting the baby cry in the Aaliyah song. There's just a lot of stuff you can do as a producer to make your sound unique. But a lot of us kind of get stuck in that whole I'm emulating my favorite producer sort of zone. And then we extend that zone, I think, for too long of a time, to the point where we don't really have a sonic or musical identity. The good news is, unfortunately, there are a lot of rappers out there that are stuck in that zone too. So if they want a beat that sounds like something that a famous producer already made, well, cool, because they might want to rap like a famous rapper already raps. And sometimes you get it right. I mean, there have been beats that I've heard that definitely sound like something that's already been out there, but then maybe the recording artist comes through and transforms it, or vice versa. An artist that sounds similar to anyone else out there uses a beat that's a little bit weird, and suddenly that combination is enough to make it unique. So I don't know, but I do truly believe that, in spite of the narrative, because the narrative is everyone sounds the same and that's the only way you get successful, I think that's completely wrong. I think the weirder stuff is what stands out. And I would encourage people, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I would rather be all right and weird and unique than amazing and sound like everything else.
Well, there's also, I mean, because I'll go back to this cat, Maurice Moore, because what was even more impressive was the way that and I spoke to him as well, so I followed up with a conversation, was the way he presented himself, the way his professionalism, and then he sent me a deck afterwards too. So, and I wouldn't say that there's like anything like too different about him, but you can stand out by just making amazing music still. Right. Like even if you're mimicking Drake, which this cat kind of does. He's from Canada. He's light skinned. It's kind of in a lot of his songs are in one of Drake's lane. But he definitely stood out by having a song that went viral already. And I think the story behind that song, if I remember correctly, there was some Korean show that like shouted him out. And then everybody started flocking to that song. So that's interesting. Like sometimes things like that can happen to songs because of streaming now. Your song can just get picked up and then all of a sudden it's in the algorithm. So that song has like 30 million plays, but he has a couple others that have like 1 million or 2 million. But I spoke with him, real cool cat. It was easy to get on the phone, and then he sent me this deck that it had his bio. It had who his audience is. It has who his listener persona is. He has his next project, the songs that are going to be on it, the song titles. I'm not going to say who his features are, but he has some big features on this project. He also has some very big features. He came to LA, I forget how many years ago. He started kind of writing for different artists. So he built up a lot of relationships. And I was just really impressed with everything, like the team, the presentation. This is a better presentation that I've ever put together. So all of that in its totality really has like me interested in like continuing the conversation, but I think he presented himself the right way. And I know people are going to be like, well, numbers shouldn't matter. But let's be real today. Like numbers have to matter. Like numbers have to matter because numbers should tell a story. Right. Numbers tell a story. Numbers are a sign of consistency. Numbers are a sign that you have figured something out. Right. So, you want numbers not to matter, but that's just because you haven't put in the work to at least have a presence on some platform. I'm not saying you have to have tens of millions of streams or tens of millions of followers, but there has to be something, right? Like you can't just have nothing, and it has to be trending in the right direction. Even if you have 1,000, but you had 20 last month, okay, how did something happen, right? What is the story there? Or you go from 10,000 to 100,000, like. So don't tell me like, oh, you just care about numbers. Like, no, it's not all we care about. But again, the numbers tell a story, and I want to know what that story is.
But you care about numbers too. If somebody said, I love what you're doing, we're going to sign you, but you don't get any money, you'd be like, where's the money? Everybody cares about numbers. The people are capping when they say they're not. That may not be the only thing that somebody cares about, but you can't not care about numbers and own a successful business.
Yeah. And the people that get mad that when people bring up numbers are the people that don't have numbers. Like they haven't put in the work. But the one thing that I missed and was probably the most impressive thing about Maurice is when I went down to the budget section of the presentation, it was extremely realistic. Like extremely realistic is the number he's asking for. Because normally I'll get some shit and they're like $1 million at the end. And they've had like 2 million streams in the past year. And they're asking for 50,000, 70,000, 100,000. That to me was like the icing on the cake. Like I looked at the budget. I was like, okay, this is where he's going to go left. I know he's going to go left here. And then I looked at it. I was like, oh shit. Like this is very reasonable and realistic. I know this cat has some real experience in the industry.
I think you should rewind when you said people who have 2 million streams asking for $50,000. Because you said $1 million at first, and everybody's like, yeah. I'm not going to ask for $1 million. When I tell you, most artists who have about $1 million to 2 million will say 50,000, and I'm not seeing it. I'm like, you made $10,000 across a year, and you want me to give you 5 times that? It's not happening, bro.
Right.
Like, not like that's another thing. Do your research. If you're looking at the average amount that that distributors are giving to independent artists, first and foremost, they're not giving it to independent artists. They're giving it to independent artist teams. If you don't have a team, you better ask for less because they don't know if it's a good investment. On average, distributors are giving between $20,000 and $30,000, and you have to have a really, really, really in-depth marketing plan. Like, they need to know that, and then they need to see what you did with the previous money. Okay, if last year you did 2 million streams, what money did you spend to get to 2 million? If you're like, I don't know, I just posted on social media. Okay, so then you should be like, if you got that, if you didn't spend any money last year, how come I can't give you 10,000 and see 10 times the results, right? Like, you have to have a proof of concept. So 1, you should be spending money and you should know where that money is going. But 2, if you did 2 million streams asking for 50,000, you're already smoking crack. Just know, like, you got it. The money's got to make sense.
Yeah, that is normally where artists really, even if you're excited about the music and things like that, their expectations is just something ridiculous. For some reason, like, artists are just stuck at like the million obviously just sounds nice. Like, that people just want to say they got $1 million deal. But it just doesn't justify it. Like, where do you think the music's going to go? If you just got 2 million streams, even with a bunch of support, you think it's going to go to 100 million? Like, just jump like that? Like, yeah. So that's definitely where a lot of artists go left. You got to be realistic with your expectations. So hopefully you have a team that can help you be realistic, because I know that a lot of artists don't really jump into numbers like that and can't really do any projections. But, very impressed with Maurice Moore. I think you guys, people listening, should check him out, because what I was impressed by was like the consistency of quality from one song to the next. Like, there wasn't any drop off. A lot of artists, they might get one song that's cool, but you can tell they really haven't put in their 10,000 hours because they can't replicate the same quality. They might have just accidentally stumbled onto something catchy that worked, but they can't replicate it because they don't even know how they did the first one.
It takes a very special kind of person to not only be able to make the music, but then also have the team, select the right people and then listen to them even when they're critical of you. Because I personally have not seen that. I've met people that can take amazing criticism, but I've not experienced. I've met artists that obviously, are on that level, but they were on that level before I met them. I've never seen it come together. I've seen what generally happens is, an artist either fails on their own and quits. I mean, they fail by quitting. Or they put the team together, and either the team is just there to be yes people, and they get nowhere, and that's if the team is just there to promote you and that's it, and hype you up and all that, eventually those people disappear because there's no progress in that. And once the progress is gone, they're just going to find someone else to hype up. But when it comes to actually having a good team, I think that causes a collapse faster than having a bad team, because a bad team, you write it to the sunset off of ego, because everyone's like, yeah, you're the greatest, you're the greatest, you're the greatest. When I'm part of a team, I'm a lot more honest. I'm like, this isn't the right set list for this audience. This mix needs to be better. Why are you talking in an accent on this song? That doesn't make sense for you. And I've said all of those things. And next thing you know, that team collapses, or I'm the bad guy, or, whatever. And hey, good riddance. I learned from all those experiences. But yeah, all the people that say, these artists that are at the place they're at, highly successful artists, they're talentless. every single day. Drake is talentless. It's not even about the music. It's you have to be a special kind of person to get there and then stay there. It's hard enough to even get part of the way there. You're a special kind of person if you get part of the way there. And you're an amazing person if you do it by yourself. If you do it with a team, you might be even more amazing because that means you're taking criticism from others as well as holding yourself accountable. All of this stuff is incredibly important. I wish all these music selling courses, beat selling courses, music business success courses, all that focused on that. But no one wants to do the self-improvement stuff because then it gets a little too new age and spiritual. And it's way harder work than telling someone to, upload their song a month early to get on Spotify release radar. We're talking about looking in the mirror and saying, hey, are you able to take criticism? Are you able to let that roll off your back? What happens if your manager tells you you're making a mistake? What happens when a label rejects you? What happens when people in the crowd at your show start walking away? I've seen people on stage react terribly, start cussing out the crowd. I managed an artist that cussed me and my co-manager out multiple times because we were giving suggestions that were entirely correct and based on what we knew about his career. That's why we're in the position that we're in. It takes a special kind of person. And so the people that look at the top artists in the game are the people that are rising and say, well, my cousin can rap better than Drake or whatever. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But probably you're
not.
You're probably not.
Most likely you're not.
Because he has an entire writing team, for sure.
Right. But even if your cousin raps an iota better than Drake, your cousin wouldn't survive that journey, most likely. And if your cousin does survive that journey, great. You're rich just by being their cousin because they're going to go far.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Aaron. My bad.
I think this is a major point. I had a whole nother topic, but I want to stay on this team thing really quickly. Also, there is at least one community promoting this, the Excellence Academy, because our motto is care. No, really, because I feel like this is the issue. And care is community, accountability, resources, and exceptionality. I feel like you cannot win in the industry if you don't have those. And community.
Say it again.
Care. So the Excellence Academy is built on care, community, accountability, resources, and exceptionality. If you don't have all four of those, you're not winning in this industry. Even when everybody's like, my cousin is a better rapper than Drake. Drake has exceptionality. You know what I'm saying? It's
and he damn sure has accountability because he got rejected a million times. And all the criticism and every time he puts out an album, someone's mad at it.
And we're not even huge Drake stans. We're just using an example of a place that people love to hate. But I so agree with this. I recently had to let an artist go. Now it happens a lot faster for me because I realize I'm the value, not them. I say it all the time. You throw a rock, you can hit a talented artist. That doesn't matter. Can you hit an artist who is, one, already accelerating themselves, two, willing to listen to somebody and partner with that, and then three, willing to spend the money on that? Some people will be like, well, if I give away 25%, I'm losing money. I'm never looking at it like that. We just added our 8th team member to Build Your Own Dreams. So I just hired our 8th employee. I'm not looking at less money. I'm looking at he's going to improve us at least 15%. Do you know what I'm saying? At least if we improve the amount of money that we make by 15% and I'm paying him a salary, do you know what I'm saying? So every time I'm adding people to the team, I'm not looking like it's costing me more money, maybe for a few months, but it's going to accelerate us way quicker than me trying to outsource this shit and figure it all out internally. You got to stop being selfish. That's the reason that people have a glass ceiling. Most people are selfish and they don't listen. It takes a really special place. I listen to my team. My team teaches me more. I feel like my team teaches me more than I teach them, really and truly, because there's more of them. I can't sit here and teach all. I'm like, hey, this is where we need to go. They're going, right? It's this weird dynamic, I think, with artists where they feel like because they're talented, they don't have to listen, or because they've gotten themselves to a point, I know how to walk. I can go on a hike. I have to hire an instructor when I'm trying to ascend higher. Do you know what I'm saying? And artists just are like, nah, I walked up this hill. I don't need you to teach me how to climb a mountain. It's like, it's so strange. So artists a lot of times are like, I just need a team. I just need a team. I just need a team. Make sure your heart is right. And if you needed a team, you probably are good at community building. If you don't have a community of people around you, or at least a virtual community of people where y'all are being accountable to each other, y'all are working and pushing, you're not ready for a team. You can't have a team because you're not already modeling that. When a team comes, you'll be frustrated or they're going to hoe you. One of the two is going to happen. Like Dame said, like you shouldn't be looking for somebody to sign you out of desperation. You shouldn't be looking for a team out of desperation. But if you're looking for a team, you should already have a community of people that you're working with that are already positioning you, because you should be functioning like a business already. I don't know any fully autonomous businesses, none.
No,
And
I'm
so
sorry, you're like
artists
triggering
should do
me
that.
because all the DMs I get, all the conversations I have with artists, I compare everything to a romantic relationship. If you're going into a romantic relationship desperate and you tell the person, hey, I'm just so terribly lonely. Everyone I know tells me I'm just a fucked up toxic person. I need you to be with me, please. If that person doesn't reject you, which they should, you're in for a hell of a ride. And that's how it is. People are literally in my inbox begging me to sign them, begging me to give them a chance. I don't even have a label. I don't even have a management company. I don't sign anybody. Why are you begging me? And you don't even have, most of the time, they don't even have content on their page. They certainly don't have fans. Because the thing is, if you had all these things, trust me, this is why I tell people, just get fans, make fans. Once you have fans, you're going to feel fulfilled. Your music, the artist in you is going to feel fulfilled. Your soul is going to be happy because people are actually consuming your music. And that's what you want. That's what you set out to do. And you're going to be able to monetize fans because fans support you. That's the definition of a fan. So once you have those two things, you're going to stop, at least to a high degree, you're going to stop fiending for validation, because instead of just, industry validation, you're getting real authentic support. And I don't know, anything in the music business that you're thinking about doing, ask yourself, would I do this if I were trying to attract a romantic partner? Would I
Okay.
DM?
That's a key question. I'm convinced that most dudes, I actually don't know how most dudes have girlfriends or wives.
That's a
because
good point.
they cannot talk. I get DM. I'm like, that's such a valid point. I say this all the time. I'm like, I don't know how all these guys are in relationships. You don't know how to talk, much less to a woman. Why do you think this is going to work? You don't know how to talk. That shit is crazy. Women, stop giving it up. These dudes are dumbasses. How, what? They do not know how to talk. That shit is crazy to me.
I agree with that.
Well, there's much less talking that happens these days, right? I think that, I definitely appreciate the time period in which I grew up, right? Like I'm old enough that was pre all this new technology where we had to talk to people. If we went into a friend's house, we had to address the parents. Like now, my daughter's friends come in the house, they look at me like I'm crazy and just keep walking. And there's just less talking that happens these days. So they don't really develop that skill.
But I'm saying the DMs look crazy. I'm not even talking about by the time. I'm like, do you really feel like I'm what you want, but you sent this funky ass DM? You really felt like saying it this way was going to get me to be like, oh yeah, let me just help you. There's no logic.
I recently had this conversation with a woman I'm dating and this is the depressing reality about all this stuff. And I don't know if this translates into the music business. I think so, but in a bad way. So it probably does. Like if I stood on a street corner and every woman that walked past me, if I did this to 100 women, I blacked out some of my teeth so it looked like I was really missing teeth and wore some dirtier clothes and just said, hey, bitch, I'm trying to fuck, to like 100 different women, I might get numbers from like 3 of them. And what's going to happen with those 3 women? They're going to be incredibly toxic themselves. So yes, if you DM 100 people in the music business and say, hey, please sign me, I'll do anything, which is a DM that people will send, maybe 3 of them will respond and offer you something, but it's not going to be good. It's not going to give you any value. It's going to be like one of these, hey, send me $50 or I'll get you signed to Def Jam. Just send me $700 for the plane ticket and the deposit. And then that money goes to a Cash App account and is ghost.
I want to see you go out and prove it, Payne. Go say that to 100 women and let me know what happens. Now, the only thing I'll add to I know we got to wrap up, but the only thing I'll add to the team thing, and I've said this several times before, if and when you do add members to your team, like you have to give them a real shot. You have to be all in. You can't be skeptical of the team members you add, because then you're not going to give them the time or the resources they need to do their job, and your team is going to fail. Right. So when you do add a manager, don't add one out of desperation and just add any old person that you really don't trust. You really don't think can do the job, because they won't, because you won't give them the opportunity to do the job. But until then, put in the work yourself, listen to the MEC. I also take this time to plug a networking course that I did for Zoo Labs. It's free. Go to @ZooLabs. It's a how to network in the music industry. Hopefully it will be beneficial to people that watch or listen to it. But it's available now. Just go to their Instagram page @ZooLabs, ZOOLABS, and you should be able to find it relatively easy. There are a lot of other courses in addition to mine, and they're all free. So take advantage of these resources, unstick yourself, get some momentum, get some fans, and eventually build a team.
And that's the gospel from Dame. And we appreciate you tuning in. The MEC has transitioned quite a bit. I mean, obviously the podcast is still here, but every Tuesday, we change the time, is the Looped In show, which is now the new, what used to be MEC, which was normally on Thursday. It's a beat making show. It's live. You can submit up to 3 loops every week. And every time I go live, I send out a text letting you know that we're going live, you making beats with your loops. Last Tuesday, R&B Justice from Taylor Gang made 5 beats. 5. He broke my record. The first record was 3 from Ricky P of Taylor Gang, and then I came through and I hit 4 one day. And then I didn't even tell R&B Justice what the record was, and he beat it. Made 5 beats, just with loops submitted through the BeatStars page. You can submit up to 3 a week. Go to beatstars.world for details. But if you want to get a text alert every time the show starts, because sometimes people submit loops and then they miss the show, so they don't get to experience Beatmaker making the beats live. So Dame, let them know the number, and I will text you personally every time I go live.
My bad. I was muted. All you got to do is text MEC to 844-206-7800. You'll get all the latest updates. If you want more information on the Excellence Academy, holler at Aaron at The Aaron Effect on Instagram. That where they should go, Aaron?
Yes, or the excellenceacademy.biz or in my bio, but don't DM me to ask me how to join. It's in my bio or the excellenceacademy.biz.
There you go.
I have a feeling if you DM her to ask her how to join, she'll probably just send you the link. So it won't be the worst thing in the world. Once again, we appreciate you tuning in. Let's all send some positive healing energy to Dame so he can make it through the home stretch of this lingering cough, and we will catch you next time on the MEC podcast. Peace.
Yes, sir. Peace.